Thanks so much for joining us. We have a fabulous panel here today to discuss the future of plant-based protein products here in India, the evolution when it comes to food tech, to nutrition, and really how that market is now suddenly exploding with all kinds of businesses and entrepreneurs looking to get into it and cater to a new value system that seems to be emerging among consumers as well. Thanks for joining us. We've got Shraddha of Evo Foods, we've got Siddharth of Epigamia, and also Siddharth Ramasubramanian of Tempayy, as well as Varun Deshpande of Good Foods India. So great to have all of you with us. Varun, why don't you set the tone then? You know, when it comes to the kind of evolution we've seen in the industry, let's say even just in the last year and a half. I mean, during the COVID period, we've all seen such significant shifts in the food industry as a whole and how consumers are choosing their products. What do you feel is going to be the way forward now?
Thank you, Aabha, and thank you for having all of us as a really diverse group here. So I'm going to try and speak very broadly, right? You mentioned that plant protein very broadly is a very emerging area of growth within industry and within consumption, right? So whether we're talking about beverages, whether we're talking about snacks, whether we're talking about products that are designed to replace meat, eggs, and dairy or otherwise, this is a new area that's emerging very rapidly. And in fact, it is driven by what you said. There's an underlying need from consumers as well as producers to really sit up and take notice of what's happening in the world in terms of public health considerations, the pandemic, in terms of their own healthful consumption. Maybe they've been watching documentaries that are pointing to the need to consume more plant-based protein relative to what they may have been eating earlier. That seems to be really driving growth here. The area that we focus on at the Good Food Institute India is specifically plant-based meat, egg, and dairy replacements, which is an area that's really soaring globally. It's, I could throw out some numbers here. Just plant-based meat, which is products that are meant to provide the sensory and cultural experience of meat, but which are made from plant or crop ingredients, is predicted to be anywhere from 100 billion to $370 billion globally. And we think it's going to be a multi-billion-dollar market in India as well over the next, let's say, decade, right? But even if you look just beyond that, if you look beyond just that, you'll see a lot of growth on the beverage side, on categories like Tempayy, which Siddharth can speak to, yogurt, which Sid can speak to. So there's really a lot of growth that's happening here, and it's for the best in terms of building a more secure, sustainable, just supply of protein and being able to supply that protein to all segments of the socioeconomic pyramid in India.
Okay, so Siddharth, let me bring up what's happening at Hello Tempayy first then, and how you're approaching the market. You're clearly coming up with certain categories that you feel consumers are looking for. What's the kind of trend that you're observing, and how are you looking to tap into it?
Yeah, thanks, Aabha. Nice to be on the panel. I think for us, first and foremost, we didn't really start with a product. We started with insights that we gathered over a period of time. And the insight that was most compelling to me personally was the fact that, India, in a country where people consume vegetarian food with such high frequency, and people who are also non-vegetarians consume vegetarian food with such high frequency, we found what we call people who are mostly vegetarian or pure vegetarian were suffering from a protein gap. And that protein gap was not just a statistic. Because of the growing awareness around the requirement for protein, the requirement for nutrition, we basically found that insight where vegetarians were sort of silently suffering with a true lack of options. It's not necessarily the most vocal group, but they were sort of saying, we know we need more protein, but there's just not enough options.
Yeah.
We're kind of bored of eating paneer for protein. We're bored of eating just dal. We probably know that these things are not really delivering what we require. And it became loud and clear to us that, for me personally, we needed to find a product that we needed to enter the Indian market to really address the protein and nutrition gap that is faced by what I call vegetarians, pure or mostly. And once we landed on that insight of what I call breaking the monotony of the same old choices, then the path to Tempayy became much more clear, right? And so that's how Tempayy came about. We didn't find Tempayy and search for a market for it. We found the insight and said Tempayy is the right product, which we can talk about more. But ultimately, we felt the solution was around being on the main plate, was being around food. There's lots of supplements and lots of bars and lots of pills that will continue to do well. We just felt if we could solve it by actually feeding people food, that would be a much more sustainable long-term play.
Got it. Siddharth, when it comes to Epigamia as well, and you have a mix of products, when it comes to dairy, you of course have the mainstream products, but you're also technically promoting healthier food, as one could call it. And now you're getting into, categories like ghee, for instance, and also looking at healthier protein-driven, products as well. Just share with us what the strategy is, and again, what you feel is going to be the kind of potential for the space.
Yeah, so, at Epigamia, if someone asks us who Epigamia is, we keep telling people we're activists of taste and advocates of health.
Yeah.
So we will send out super tasty food, but we won't prescribe health to you, because we truly believe consumers know what healthy is, and they will make their own choices. So yes, while we started with Greek yogurt, which is a high protein snack, what we always want to provide is multiple platforms of health. And one of the things that we noticed, I think 2.5, 3 years into selling Greek yogurt, is a lot of people who loved Greek yogurt were either cutting down or moving away from the category. A large portion of them are moving to plant-based. So that was the new sort of health platform that consumers are demanding for multiple reasons, for health reasons, for contemporary morality reasons, and sometimes even lifestyle reasons as well. And said, we said we should develop products within the plant-based portfolio, and we should make it bloody tasty. And that was really it. So we wanted to unleash the taste out of plant-based products. And when we launched coconut yogurts, it was not surprising that a lot of people who had a plant-based lifestyle were adopting the product. But what surprised us a lot more is even our existing ardent Greek yogurt consumers were adopting the product. These were consumers who were attuned to a healthy snack. They wanted a mid-meal snack. And they found the taste profile working for them, even in plant-based products. And the other insight on plant-based products is we are suckers for good ingredients. And plant-based products, provide you the right ingredients: coconut, oats, almonds, nuts, you name it, right? So we truly believe that the potential for plant-based products, while there is a health and a contemporary morality behind it, but there is also this sort of goodness of ingredient that will drive that category forward.
Exciting. You sound very excited about it. I love it. And I think, I think Shraddha is going to sound equally excited because she's heading in for launch. So I can see it on her expression as well. And a unique category, Shraddha, eggs. How is this going to pan out? I mean, I know globally people are really excited about picking out their specific options when it comes to eggs. But in India, is it going to be a challenge building awareness? You've also done your research clearly. So tell us, exactly what the thought was and what we should launch.
So basically, what I was saying is India is one of those countries where, it's not just about, your palate preferences. It's also about your religious beliefs. It's also about your community. It's a lot about and guilt is very deeply rooted within us. So just as a culture, we don't eat between the green dot and red dot, right? We have something called an orange dot, which extends itself to egg. So genuinely, I feel that, yes, there's a lot of awareness that needs to be created, because even when I tell people, right, that, we're making an egg out of plants, they're like, how is that possible? Do you mean a chilla, right? So there is some sort of awareness, but the fact that it can a product like this can exist, definitely a lot of awareness is needed. But I also think that there is a very, very vocal group of people that really want this product, that I feel like are pushing others for it. So I think that's where I see this market heading.
Okay, so Siddharth, let's take a look at this in terms of the industry as well. I mean, Varun gave us some numbers in the beginning, but both Siddharth, in fact, I mean, you've been active already in the industry. You've been seeing how this is playing out globally and in India. You have done a lot of research and a product market fit. I want to get a sense of what the challenges are, and at what point you see this changing from a niche play to a more mainstream play, or is that already happening? Yes, we're all aware of it, but is that more in the urban premium segment, or actually is pricing already super competitive, and is this set to become a more mass play? Tell me first from your point of view at Hello Tempayy.
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and I just want to clarify a couple of things because I think sometimes the plant-based world is framed in a certain way, and I just like to reframe it, right? Just to reiterate, when we talked about vegetarians, vegans, and vegetarians that need more food options that cater to sort of nutrition and taste, which led us to Tempayy. So we don't really look at the market as the plant-based market. Paneer is a $9 billion organized and unorganized market, right? There are people within that $9 billion buying it unorganized or in modern trade that actually want other sources of protein, right? There is people $200-300 million worth of soya chunks that are being sold. There's X amount of tofu being sold. So we don't actually view ourselves as being in just the plant-based industry. We view it as what share of the main plate do you really want to take over a period of time? And are there enough people looking for it? Right? That's one vantage point. So if you kind of look at yourself as a plant-based player, you begin to get a little myopic around, well, that means somebody wakes up going, I want to eat plant-based today versus I want to eat food today. And what is this food doing for me from a taste, versatility, and health standpoint? Your eyes begin to open and the audience, the addressable audience begins to open as well. And, just to give you an example of Tempayy, right? But one of the reasons we selected Tempayy is for what, and Sid was referring to, we love our ingredients. It's a 3-ingredient product, right? It's soybeans, water, and it's fermented. There is no fourth ingredient, right? Which keeps it really simple and clean and understandable for people, right? It doesn't have 100 things to make it something and so on. It has 3 simple ingredients. The second part that attracted to us is we said, hey, it's versatile, right? You can cube it, you can mince it, you can mash it, you can make garka khana with it, right? All our tests were not around how exotic or novel could we be, but really could somebody just make what they love to eat at home with it? And could they make it delicious themselves? Not could we make it delicious, could they make it delicious at home? And when you begin to look at sort of how people cook with food in their day-to-day life, what it is that they replace it with or adding it to their variety, nobody's going to stop eating paneer. Right? Nobody's going to stop eating tofu, but we're just beginning to offer new alternatives. And when you combine all of these, you all of a sudden see the consumer for how you fit into their life, as opposed to some kind of pure plant-based industry. And to us, the last point I like to make is the market is enormous, right? There's 30 to 40 million households in India that are earning over $1 lakh a month. And therefore, when we use the word niche, I always say to the team, there's nothing wrong with niche plays as long as your niche is large. Right. And in India, I believe there are extremely large niches, and those niches are getting bigger and bigger. And I think those opportunities are in those large niches.
Amazing. Varun, do you see a lot more disruption in this space? And we've got 3 fantastic founders here, or, companies that are already, making great strides. Do you see it? Do you see a lot more disruption along the way now?
Yeah, 100%. Just Aabha, talking a little bit further about what you said with the previous question as well, right? And I echo what Siddharth said, absolutely. There's this cohort of people, young, urban, upwardly mobile, aware of what's going on globally. Shraddha's not nodding her head because they've also done the research on this, right? This is what companies like Evo Foods, Epigamia with their plant-based line, Hello Tempayy, these are what all the entrepreneurs with whom we work are targeting initially. This is what we might call the early adopter market, right? Maybe they know exactly what's going on internationally. In our space, which is plant-based meat, eggs, and dairy, they've seen the Beyond Burger or the Impossible Burger internationally, and they know exactly what's going on. And as Siddharth said, look, there's 30 to 40 million households, maybe 100 million people spread out across all of these metros, tier 2 cities, etc., that are very clearly interested in this space. Beyond that, and this is a question that every industry in India, whether it's regular FMCG, even if it's shampoos, has to face is, are we going to scale from the early adopter market to this mega true mass market in India? And I think that comes down to taste and price. If you're making products that taste the way that people want them to and are priced attractively and are available everywhere, then you'll be able to access beyond the very large niche that already exists, that Siddharth said, which is already massive. Then you'll be able to attract the true mass market, which is then the sky's the limit in terms of how many billions of dollars we're talking, right? As far as innovation is concerned, we're seeing innovation in all these categories. So whether it's entrepreneurs in the plant-based egg space like Shraddha at Evo Foods, or it's plant-based yogurt, beverages, plant-based milks like Epigamia, or plant-based meats. We're seeing a lot of companies come in, or the broader plant protein landscape like Tempayy, etc. There's a very large number of companies that are coming into this space with a different set of approaches, different branding, different even distribution channels. Some are going direct to consumers, some are trying for retail as things pick up post-pandemic, obviously. And what's really, really fantastic, Aabha, is that a significant number of these people were founded within the last 18 months. So we're seeing all of this picking up very, very rapidly over the last 2 years or so.
I'm actually a vegetarian, so I completely agree with what you're saying. Firstly, a lot of people tell you or debate with you the nutritional value of paneer. And secondly, I think taste as well as awareness are probably very important, knowing that some of these products are out there. So I was asking Sid from an Epigamia perspective, really, how you've overcome some of the challenges in building awareness and distribution. I mean, I know you also had, really big marketing campaigns earlier in the day, but now when it comes to, the new part of dairy that you're looking at, how are you working to overcome some of these challenges and whatever else you feel may be an obstacle?
Yeah, no, I think there's no question about the fact how big the market is. I mean, you just get 1% of the food market in India. That's many countries in the world, right? So it's really that big. Be it milk, yogurts, dahi, paneer. There's huge categories. The challenge will lie in some of the things that you said, right? Is a large part of the consumers who want plant-based today and want a plant-based diet are spread across the country. So getting to them and distributing to them at the right price point is going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge on business models. And I think most companies will struggle on how to identify the right business model to service these consumers who are probably spread across 600 towns in this country. So, we get a lot of consumers calling in from places like Nagpur and Gorakhpur and says, we want your yogurts. And I'm saying I can't service it there because my yogurts are cold chain. And for me to get to Gorakhpur will take a few more years, right? So there's a large chunk of the business that lies in the rest of the country, which we're not able to service. So that's one challenge that we have to overcome. And hopefully we will overcome in the next couple of years. The second challenge, of course, is pricing. A lot of our products are premium priced versus existing dairy. That has multiple reasons for it. One, of course, is the distribution challenge. To distribute, we don't have the economies of scale to distribute. Sourcing challenge, which is, of course, the products that are available. We're sourcing at a much higher price than we should be. And we will have to solve for the economies of scale. There's GST, which is obviously another component, which is more than what you would have for regular dairy. So there are multiple reasons why this product is probably not the same price as existing dairy. And over a period of time, we need to solve for that as well. And the third thing is, of course, this entire conversation on friction, right? What is it? Is it really beneficial? Is it nutritional? And that's the media and the awareness challenge that I think we'll have to overcome. I think players in this business, while there is a big market, have to work hard on distribution, sourcing, and awareness. And if you get that business model right, then you will get 1% of that business, and 1% is huge.
Shraddha, how are you looking to attack the market? You must have a strategy in place, and it's given that it's a completely new segment and you're diving in head first. Are there big risks? What's the downside?
Yes. I mean, of course, when I say there's risk, I mean, yes, right? Like everyone on this panel has said, right? The risk is you get pegged as too niche, right? Like, okay, you're just for the vegans, or just for people who are looking to make that switch. And that market becomes smaller, right? I guess the market that we're trying to go after is, people that are looking for a better egg. Like they want, they want all the benefits without any of the costs, right? And the costs being in the cost to your health, to the environment, to all of it, right? And genuinely, we believe that if we can deliver people this experience at a price point, in a way that is accessible to them, then we definitely feel like this is a play for a much larger market and not just that very, very tiny niche, right? That people keep. Also, there's a lot of, because this is a nascent industry, right? Like there's not a lot read about it or spoken about it, right? It's very easy to, smaller articles or like, different thoughts. So I think that, because this is not a much bigger industry, I think that, it needs to be treated really carefully in a way that it's presented to the customers. So I think one of the really cool ways that I think that we're trying to overcome this problem is we've tied up with a lot of really cool restaurants.
Okay.
Yes. And because the way we see it is our egg is delicious, right? I believe it's as good as any other like keg or egg or whatever on the market, right? So what we want to do is we want to put this in the hands of restaurants and chefs that people trust and have that translate to it, right? Because like you very rightly said, getting the right kind of awareness for this product is super essential. And I think that goes across all categories, right? Because it's so easy for someone who's never cooked an omelette or a scramble in their life, right? Someone who's a vegetarian and might be looking at this for protein to take it at home and cook it in a way that might not make sense, right? Because they've never cooked an egg before. So it's really important because you're introducing a category, and of course, we have we have ideas as to who our first adopters are going to be based on our product surveys and market surveys and all of that. But honestly, 1.5 months after we launch, like I think that's going to be the true test, right? Of how they're going to cook it. And so I guess it's really important to make sure you set the right expectations, especially for an industry that doesn't have a lot of background for people to really come back to.
Absolutely. So I just want to get a closing comment and also a little bit of a personal touch from all of you, in terms of a little bit perhaps about what inspired you to get into the space. Anything you'd like to share about the experience so far and your vision going forward? I know that's a very broad range, but each of you may have something different that you connect with. Siddharth, let me start off with you, because I know, you spent a lot of time after the exposure to the US and coming back here, as you said, figuring out the market first, understanding the insights. To you, what excites you the most about the way forward? What's your key takeaway been so far?
Yeah, I think, we're a foodie country, which is exciting, right? From the neighborhood chaiwala to whatever it is I'm eating at a nice restaurant, we love our food. Along with that comes certain challenges, but it's exciting. Haven't been in food for a very long time. The second part that has been really exciting for me is, getting Tempayy into a price point that it's at par with good quality paneer, which is what we have done. I think, people expect challenges to be maybe a little bit more, cool. But our two things we wanted to achieve, one, which is, can we fit into the diet here and create products that people can fit into their diet? Can we price it at par with paneer? Those are the two challenges we took on front, because everything else is a bit of a PowerPoint presentation or a science project if you can't achieve these two things, right? At a personal level, at a personal level, I do think performance with purpose is the way to go, where we absolutely believe in delivering great performance through fantastic products. And I personally believe that at the end of the day, people don't just buy products for eco reasons or for XYZ reasons. People buy great products, right? And whether it's shoes or shirt or food, people want great products. And if these great products also bring with them certain other benefits, that's the bonus. It's not the other way around. And that is so true in a market like India. And I guess probably a little bit, the last thing I'd like to say is that for everybody who's talking about where this industry is headed or where we go, if we get some of these fundamentals right, people were probably asking whether in 1985, whether people would figure out instant noodles or not. And whether, because Chinese food only existed at the Taj and the Oberoi. And it took them 20 years. Today, with digitization and thanks to Geo and 400 million people online, I think that journey of being able to create new food moments that actually matter is going to be much faster. So,
fantastic. I think you've put that really well. The other, Siddharth, and I know you're still relatively new to the Epigamia, story, but, from where you stand, Siddharth, for you, what personally drives you about this particular venture?
let me tell you a story about what inspires Epigamia.
Yes.
So consumers told us, what, we're moving to the plant-based lifestyle, which is why we started developing plant-based products. And the first one that we, and Chef was great because he came up with a coconut yogurt, a plain coconut yogurt. And there isn't really a vegan amongst us. So we are a little averse to the kind of taste profiles that are there. We're very stickler on taste. So the first time we tasted coconut yogurt, we were like, okay, fine. But we gave it to a few people who follow the vegan lifestyle and they loved it and we launched it. But we were still not excited about it. Now, at Epigamia, if you sit in one of our meetings, our gold standard for taste is the Epigamia Alfonso Mango Greek Yogurt. That's the gold standard, and nothing's beaten that at Epigamia yet. Well, some people might debate it. But here we were, we launched the coconut, the plain coconut milk yogurt, and we were sitting in a heated business meeting just before COVID, and we had that product ready just before COVID. Again, like I said, we weren't excited about it because none of us felt the taste was to the extent of the mango yogurt. But here we were sitting in a very, very busy business meeting and they're all fighting. And suddenly Chef, when he knows that everyone's sitting in a meeting, sends across a few for us to taste. And he sent us the mango coconut milk yogurt. Now that's for the first time at Epigamia, there was a product that beat the Greek yogurt Alfonso Mango. That's the time when we realized, oh God, we can unleash taste out of this category. And ever since then, we've been inspired to work with oats, to work with almonds, come up with new formats. We're even looking at cheese. I think that's the moment that inspired us that, we could unleash the taste out of this and probably get plant-based products that are even more tastier than the existing categories. And we're quite confident that with the new formats that we're working, that we will have as tasty a product as you can get.
So no, but I am loving some of what you're all saying. It's so exciting, and I can't wait to try out some of these things as well. Shraddha, give us a sense. I mean, you're the newest entrant that we have on the panel today, but tell us a little bit about your background as well. Give us some context into what really made you do this.
So my background is actually from the hospitality industry. Mm-hmm. So for the past 5 years, I used to own and run this vegan and vegetarian restaurant in Bombay called Candy and Green.
Of course, yes. Yeah.
So I launched that because, I wanted, and that time I was like, I think back to that time. And I think I was very naive in what I wanted to do, where I was like, I want to change the way people interact with food. Growing up vegetarian, I felt that when I went out to restaurants, it would always be like paneer, cheese, masala. And I'm like, this is not how I eat, right? We don't really focus. Where's the focus on the produce, right? Because I'm a Gujarati, back at home, we really focus on different vegetables. It doesn't come to my house that much. It really just doesn't. So I couldn't relate. And that's why I was like, I want to change the way people eat. And that's actually how Candy and Green started. But the more and more I started interacting with customers, I realized that, there is a much larger platform here to change the way people really interact with food. And that's when I actually met my co-founder, Karthik, right? And at that time, Karthik was, he had founded this cell-based meat company. And I met him and I'm like, Karthik, I want to have a bigger impact. Right now, I'm impacting people in South Bombay, in Tempayy Road, and I'm telling them about my philosophy, right? About, about how exciting and accessible vegetarian and vegan can be. How do we translate that to the whole country and the whole world, And that's when I met him. And we started brainstorming with each other. And we both realized, we're like, we really care about making an impact, right? Making a tangible difference and empowering people to make what we call a better decision, right? And I guess that's just where Evo Foods was born from, right? And one of our philosophies when we launched, we're like, we don't want to be, like a premium high-priced product because egg is a comfort food, right? Mm-hmm. We believe that a comfort food should truly be comfortable, right? Not only comfortable to eat, but to source, to sell, to serve, all of it, right? And honestly, that's how we came up with Evo.
Got it. Varun, all the entrepreneurs so ambitious, passionate, and driven. This is going to be a huge success. I just know it speaking to all of you, and it already is in so many ways. I hope that the ecosystem is supportive in terms of the industry, regulators, and that things are conducive to making this happen.
Yeah. Aabha, your question was also about kind of how we are each thinking about this space.
Yes.
So I'll just say, look, the rest of the entrepreneurs on the panel have mentioned kind of what their motivations are and what their company's motivations are for getting into the space. I'll just say, look, all of us are roughly the same age. When our grandparents were born, let's say 1930, the population of the world was 2 billion people. Okay, by the time we get to 2050, we're going to be at 10 billion. And during this time, we've really been stretching our planetary boundaries to their limit. My background is in healthcare. I wanted to work in global health, right? Look at some of the most important problems in global health: malaria, tuberculosis, pandemics, things that affect our planet and humans on a huge scale. But you can't think about any of those problems, whether it's global health, climate change, any of these things, without also looking at food and agriculture. If you examine any of those challenges, whether we care about deforestation, species loss, greenhouse gas emissions, ocean dead zones, ocean acidification, any of the problems that we all care about, they're affected by food, agriculture, and in fact, protein in a huge way. So that's why we exist at the Good Food Institute India. We love to support entrepreneurs. We love to work with government agencies, universities, large corporations, philanthropists, pretty much anyone who can help us accelerate a diversification of protein so we can get to a more secure, sustainable, and kind of just protein supply for the world. And what we're seeing thus far, as you said, is very encouraging. We've seen huge companies get into the space, wonderful entrepreneurs in the space, investors, government agencies sit up and support it, but we need a lot more. We need potentially, with no offense to the wonderful entrepreneurs on this panel, we need potentially 1,000 of them, right? We need to be able to provide every single consumer and producer with the opportunity to supply plant protein at scale. We need the talent to support that growth. We need investment capital to support that growth. And we need regulation and a clear path to market so that we have that choice in the future. Everyone should have the choice so that they can switch. And it feels like a simple switch and not a sacrifice. That's why we exist.
Wonderfully put. And I think we're off to a great start, given the benchmark some of the entrepreneurs and companies here today are already setting, and capital's clearly flowing in as well. So it looks promising. It was fantastic speaking to all of you today. Thank you for taking out the time and joining us on Business Today. And we really look forward to seeing how things evolve, and do stay in touch.